Hey YouTube, it is September 22nd, 2023. Welcome to the Bubba Continuum. As I always point out, my name is not Bubba. I thought I'd put up another video about Singapore. I thought I'd give people useful tips on what to do before they arrive and when they get there, because there's a lot of paid channels out there that give people stupid advice. So I don't get paid. If I did, my videos would be better. Last time I talked about why Singapore is better than America, how they still have some common sense there and the place isn't swarming with perverts and wokeness and crime and so forth. This time I just want to let you know what to do, so when you decide to visit Singapore, you'll have a smooth running experience. There's some things you should do before you even get there, and one of the things you need to do is to get a map of the MRT system, a color map. I don't know what MRT stands for, Metropolitan Rapid Transit or something. It's the subway. It's great. You'll want to ride the MRT. But the thing is, it's color coded. They got different lines and different colors, and the map, when you go to the stations and ask for a map, they don't have them. And if you look at something online, it's going to be on your tiny little phone, and it's a bad experience. Sit there with somebody else looking over your shoulder trying to read this tiny thing. So you really want a map, and you should print it out in color before you go on an inkjet. And take it and fold it up and keep it on your person at all times when you're there. Another thing you need to do is get an app called Grab, G-R-A-B, and load it onto your phone and connect it to your favorite credit card. And I'll explain all that in a little bit. Before you arrive at immigration, you're going to want to have a visitor card filled out. I don't really remember what it's called. It's probably called a visitor card. And if you Google around, you can find Singapore's government website where they will let you fill this thing out, and they want to know your passport number, who you are, where you're staying. You fill all that out, and then they keep it in your system. And then when you arrive at immigration, you don't have to do it again. And they're happy to see you, and you slide right through. Okay, so when you get there, you're going to arrive at an airport called Changi, C-H-A-N-G-I. And Changi is generally considered to be the best airport on Earth. I can't tell you whether that's true or not, not having been to every airport on Earth. I can tell you that I doubt that it's the best airport on Earth for departures. It's great when you arrive, it's wonderful. But when you depart, it can be pretty slow. A couple of weeks back, 2 or 3 weeks back, my wife and I left Singapore, and we had a pretty difficult time getting out. We were on different airlines, and we got there very early. So we went downstairs to the early check-in area, which makes sense. And they put me in a line, and there was, I guess, maybe 7 people in the line or 8 people, and they were only in 2 or 3 parties. It wasn't like every group had to have a separate ordeal. And it took something like half an hour to get through this line. It just took them forever. And then when we got through and went over to the line from my wife's plane, they said, oh, stand in this line. Some airport employee told us to stand there. And when we got to the head of the line, they said, oh, this line's closed. We're not doing anything at this counter. You have to go upstairs to the regular counter, where we had already been. So we went upstairs to the regular counter, this big long row of ticket counters. You know how that is. And nobody was there. There was nobody working. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but I'm pretty sure that's unusual for the middle of the day in a major airport. So that was like another half an hour or something. So what I would tell you about Changi is when you leave, take them seriously. When the airlines say arrive 3 hours early, you know, usually that's a big joke, and you can get there an hour before your flight and you're fine. But don't do that at Changi. Get there early and relax, because you don't know how long you're going to take to get out. But on the way in, it's fine. You just everything goes nicely, like a well-oiled machine. The airport itself is very nice. It's got a mall inside it, and they have all sorts of stuff there. They have a lot of stores, Coach and so forth. Just a wide variety of things. They have Shake Shack, believe it or not. So they have a nice electronics store there. I mean, you can go into this place and, you know, if this was the only mall you ever went to, you could have a pretty decent life. It also has this thing. I should tell you, Changi has a bunch of terminals that surround the center building called the Jewel, and you can tell by the name of it that they think it's pretty important. So the Jewel, the whole purpose of it, as far as I know, is to impress tourists. Singapore is kind of a dull place. I mean, it's great for tourists if you're not looking for a tremendous amount of excitement. But it's not the most exciting place on Earth. It's just a flat little island with no natural features to speak of. You know, a little man-made beach and so forth. So they go out of their way to create things that appeal to tourists. And one of the things they've done is they've created an indoor waterfall at the airport, and they have this giant dome, this huge glass dome with a hole in the middle, and this enormous waterfall comes down. I don't know how high this thing is. It must be 75 feet high, and it's pretty cool. You can go and see that. I don't know what else to tell you about Changi, except I should tell you this: the signs inside the airport. This is something funny about people in Singapore. Usually these are really sharp people who are totally on top of everything. They do things really well. But when it comes to signs, they'll like you're in a subway and you're saying, I want to get to the north-south line. You'll see a sign that says north-south line this way, and then you see another one that says north-south line this way, and you keep walking, you keep seeing more signs. And then they'll just stop, and you just have to figure it out on your own. Where they'll have a sign that'll say north-south line this way, and you don't know if it means that way or this way, or what, or take the escalator. So that's an interesting thing about the airport. You may have some trouble understanding the signs. Anyhow, it's that's just something you're gonna have to get used to. So you're gonna arrive and you're gonna go through customs, hopefully go through immigration, hopefully quickly, and you'll get through customs. And customs turned out to be kind of a joke. Before I went to Singapore the first time, I saw all these things about duty, how you had to pay when you brought anything into the country. And I thought, well, that's just for merchants, right? Or for Singapore residents. But I kept reading about it, and the more I read, the more I thought they're going to tax whatever I bring in. And I was bringing thousands of dollars worth of jewelry for my wife, because she's from a foreign country and I have to bring her things. And I was thinking, I'm not paying these people Singapore tax on thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. And I thought, what am I going to do when I get to this place? And I thought, well, that's not fair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the jewelry boxes, and I want to leave them in America, and I'll just put the jewelry in the bag. And it's her personal effects, that's what it is. So I wanted it to look like her personal effects and not something they should tax, and I was concerned. And when I got there, they just had this big open space, and it had a sign over it that said something like nothing to declare. And you just walk through it. So it's not like, say, Egypt, where everybody gets the third degree. So I was worried about nothing. So I don't know if I committed a crime or not, but frankly, I don't care, because if you're gonna buy, $3,000 necklace or whatever and bring it through customs to your tourist wife who's going to take it home to another country, they shouldn't be able to charge you $250 or whatever the tax is. So that's what I did. All right. What's the first thing you want to do once you're at the airport and you've done all this stuff? You're going to want cash. Singapore is an interesting place. In some ways, it's very advanced, very electronic. But on the other hand, in some ways, it's a little bit backward. There's places where you can only get food with cash, and you're going to want an MRT card for the subway. And you want cash. To get this card, you're going to want cash. You're going to have cash and a credit card, because it's not always totally clear where you can get one of these cards. The two places that I know of where they're supposed to be available are 7-Eleven stores and MRT stations. So I don't know why, but 7-Eleven is very big in the Far East. It pretty much died in America. It seems like it may be coming back. Maybe it got so successful in the Far East that a Chinese company bought it and now they're exporting it here. I don't know. But it really died here, and I always say that my theory about that is that school children found easier places to get pornography and cigarettes and cheap wines made under the supervision of rabbis. Anyway, there's a 7-Eleven on every corner in the Far East, and it's kind of like Starbucks used to be. When you know how it used to be. It used to be that you could sit at Starbucks and look out the window and see Starbucks, because there was another one 100 yards away, and it's kind of like that with 7-Eleven. So 7-Eleven sells these things called EasyLink cards, and there's other cards. There's something called Tourist Pass or something. I don't know what it's called. There's different variations of these little cards that have RF chips in them that you use to ride the subways and the buses and so forth. And you can save $1 here and $1 there by buying this version of the card or that version of the card. Don't drive yourself crazy. You're on vacation. Get an EasyLink card. And anyway, when we were there, we had all sorts. We didn't have any. Obviously, we didn't just show up with Singapore dollars. And we had some trouble trying to get EasyLink cards. And we went to 7-Eleven. We found out that sometimes all the 7-Elevens in Singapore run out at the same time. And that's what happened when we were there. And then we went to the MRT station, and as I recall, I'm not certain about this, as I recall, they had machines where you could buy them, but you had to use cash. Anyway, the way it worked out was, in order to get an MRT card, which you want to get at the airport, you really wanted to have both options open. You wanted to have cash, and you wanted to have a credit card. 7-Eleven couldn't help you. You could go to the MRT station. So just go to the MRT station and go to the customer service booth, and they'll be able to help you. And you want to put like maybe $30 on this card for 2 weeks, and by the time you leave, you'll probably still have $8 or $9 left on it because the subway is really cheap. So get your card before you leave the airport. That's my recommendation. Just go to the station at the airport. Now, if you're a manly man and you're not afraid of moving luggage, you can take the train from the airport to your hotel, and I recommend that because it's quick and easy. That depends on how you look at it. You know, when you've been on an airplane, various airplanes for 30 hours, on the one hand, you're going to want to get to your hotel really quickly, which means you should take the train, and on the other hand, you want to get there without any work, and that means take a car, get a car to take you. So you got to decide what means the most to you. If you don't mind moving your luggage, just get on the train. But if you want to take some kind of a car, you're going to need the thing I spoke about earlier, the Grab app, which you get in the United States before you leave. I hope I spoke about that. I think I did. It's on my list. The GRAB, yeah, I did speak about it. Get your Grab app before you leave, hook it up to your credit card, and you use it. It's like Uber, except with Grab, you can also get food. I think you can shop. I only used it for getting rides, but it's a great ride app. And you just ask for a cab to come. You usually say, I'm here and I want to go there. And I guess they send this out like the bat signal to their drivers, and their drivers make you an offer, you know, and they'll say, well, I'll take you here for this or whatever. And they show up and come and get you. And then you get to watch them drive around on a little map on your phone. And sometimes they go the wrong way, which is frustrating to watch. It's hard to believe that Asians could ever get confused while driving. I think that's not normal. But anyway, that sometimes happens. But eventually they come and get you, and the cars are clean, the drivers are nice, and it's not expensive. A typical Grab fare in Singapore is like $7 Singapore, and they don't expect a tip, and that's $7 Singapore. So that's like what, $4.75 American, something like that. So it's not bad. It's not a bad deal. You can also get a taxi. That's more of an ordeal. You got to make a phone call and go through a lot of aggravation. I'm not sure if it's cheaper or not. We didn't take a lot of taxis. I didn't really compare. But you're on vacation. Don't drive yourself crazy. Oh, I should have told you this. I'm sorry. I was telling you to get cash before you left the airport. You want to do that at an ATM. You don't want to wait until you leave the airport, and you want to go to an ATM. You don't want to go to a special money changer. And I'll tell you why. There's a bunch of money changers at a place called Raffles Place. There's an arcade there, and they compete with each other. And I guess, I don't know, maybe you can save $5 on 100 or something. I mean, don't do it. I did it. It was stupid. If you're going to change $1,000, okay, fine. But if you're changing $150, just go to an ATM. It's much more convenient. You're not going to have to pay for the train. You're not going to have to sit and sweat. And you can have money ready when you leave the airport, and wherever you go the same day, you can spend it without wasting a lot of time trotting around Singapore trying to get money. A good tip that I got from somebody, an experienced traveler, I was told that you should get a Schwab checking account if you travel a lot, especially in the Far East. If you get a Schwab checking account, they don't charge you an ATM fee. When you use an ATM overseas, you're going to get nailed for your bank's ATM fee, and you're going to get nailed for a conversion fee, and you're going to get nailed for the fee that comes from whoever operates the ATM. Well, if you have a Schwab card, you don't have to pay your bank anything. So that's nice. Also, when you use ATMs or whenever you use a credit card, they'll give you an option. They'll say, oh, let us do the conversion for you. Never do that because you always end up losing money. At least that's what everybody says. I never went through my bills later on and compared, but they say you should never do that. Always just do it straight. So where are we? You got your EasyLink card. Now you can ride the buses, and you got your Grab thing, and you can get rides when you don't want to ride the buses or when you can't. You should know with the Grab cards, when it rains or when it's busy, it's just like any American city. You're not going to be able to get a ride, and there's some places where the MRT doesn't go. Like my wife and I, we went to the National Botanic Garden. We got off the MRT station and walked right into the garden, walked to the other end, and we thought, well, we'll get on the MRT and go home. And it turned out the only station near this thing was the one we came from, so it's a 1.3 kilometer walk, I think. And we didn't really feel like doing that, so we called Grab and waited like 25 minutes or something. So it's good to have all the options open, and it's also good to look at a map before you go in, which is what we should have done. Okay, as for the MRT, I guess I should describe it to you, because it's going to be a weird experience for many Americans. especially if you've been in New York. I lived in New York for 3 years, and I visited since then. And if you're familiar with the New York subways, you know how you're welcomed with this bat-in-the-face smell of centuries-old urine, because everyone in New York pees in the subway. That's just how they are. So they don't have that in Singapore. The subways are clean, and it's air conditioned, and they have escalators and elevators. The floors look like they've been polished. I really think that they have machines that they go in and use and polish the floors at night, but I can't prove it. So it's very different from a place like New York. And of course, there's no street crime in Singapore to speak of, because they beat your butt with a cane until it bleeds if you do that kind of thing. So it's safe, it's clean. You're not going to see gangs of ghetto kids running around tormenting people, trying to push Asians onto the tracks. That wouldn't go over big in Asia. So it's a very different experience from New York, and you're not going to have performers coming on your train and doing some kind of ridiculous, idiotic act, and then trying to get you to give them money, and trying to make you understand that it would really go better for you if you gave them a donation in support of the arts. You don't see anything like that in Singapore. You don't see fragrant people sleeping on the seats, smelling up the place. So, I mean, it's just better in every way. In New York, that ear-splitting noise that you get when a train stops, you don't get that in Singapore. They have glass between the trains and the station. So the train stops, the glass opens, you get on the train, and then you get on the train, and the ride is smoother. It's just great. It's hard to think of any reason why you would choose New York over Singapore except for the pizza. So also, they don't have that oily. In New York, everything you touch has that skin oil on it, because people in New York are dirty, and they don't clean anything. So there's the oil that's been on there since like the 1920s, from people's skin, and you can smell it. And it's just nasty, and it makes the whole place smell. It makes your hands smell when you touch it. They don't have that in Singapore. Somebody cleans these trains. Either that or the people are so clean they just don't do that. Okay. What else do you need to know? My notes are getting folded over. There's another app for cabs in Singapore. You don't really need it. I got it because I got into a dispute with Grab. We called a driver, and we stood out in the street and waited for this driver, and we saw the driver get within like a couple of 100 feet, and then they just left, and then they told Grab that we weren't there. And I got mad, and we had a fuss with them, and I couldn't use Grab for a couple of days, and they finally refunded my money. So I tried to use this other app, and you don't need it. Grab's fine. Let's see, is there anything else that I need to tell you? I guess that's it when it comes to arriving in Singapore. So it should be a pretty slick experience. You shouldn't have any real problems. I hope this is useful to you, and I encourage you to visit Singapore. I mean, it's really nice to go to a country where they haven't gone insane. And then you got to come back to America, and you have to see grown men dancing in women's underwear. Well, I can't help you with that.